Thank you, Alex. Keep up the good work. It's very complicated, at least with my background. I'm the longest serving sheriff in the history of Maricopa County, 24 years. The feds started going after me, Holder and Obama, 30 days after they took office, is still around here after all those years. And I was defeated. And doesn't shock me. He pumped in $3 million in the last 30 days. I'm talking about Soros, and then they came out in federal court when a civil judge, I won't get into him, were appealing his findings on racial profiling, but shoved it over to criminal, and they announced the day before the election started that they're going to charge me, and then 2 weeks later they said they did charge me for a misdemeanor. So you can see there's much politics involved, and here comes Soros last 30 days during the election, pumping in $3 million in the media. I can go on and on. So it was a little tough race, but, the people spoke. It's not over yet. And I said 5 years ago, when the Tea Party, 250 of them came to my office, said, "You're the elected sheriff. Will you please investigate the birth certificate?" And I don't think I was crazy. I've been a federal guy for 30 years. I think I knew the heat I would take, but I had to do it, and I did. With Mike Zullo, I appointed him to do it because there was no taxpayers' money. The posse works for nothing. I knew I would get heat on that issue. And I did it, and it took 5 years.
Well, I was about to say, people can say whatever they want about you or lie about you or make stuff up. We're all victims of that. You have got, the biggest heart and guts out there to go through the hell, the intimidation, the attacks, the threats. It would take 10 hours to cover it all. They certainly were very upset about your investigation. Before we get into the actual evidence, just your personal gut view of it, why would he say in his law journal that he edited that he was from Kenya, born there? Why would his wife say that in speeches and then act like you were crazy trying to investigate the birth certificate?
I don't know, Alex. I got my opinion, but let me say from the beginning, I said I could care less where he is from. I stick with that. I said we are investigating a forged, fraudulent government document. I said that from day one. I continue to say that. And I said from day one, show the birth certificate or a microfiche, and we'll all go home. That's never happened. Mike Zullo has done a great job, tenacity, and we got some lucky breaks to put the nail in the coffin recently, and that's what I went public on. Had nothing to do with me leaving office, because I would have done the same thing if I was reelected.
Absolutely. Well, you'd have press conferences before and shown what forensic teams, independent groups have said, but then you went further, and we could probably bring in the detective here, and you guys can just pop in whenever you want. And it's just a roundtable discussion here format. But you guys had some of the top forensics labs in the country, and as the detective points out, a lot of these headed up by liberals who didn't want this to be true. And watching your press conference the other day that we covered live, it looks really, really conclusive.
Well, Mike, in answer to that, let me just say from the beginning, we went across the pond to a country where my mother and father came from. It's called Italy. And got experts, and also Mike worked on a guy from Hawaii that's an expert. Maybe Mike can explain the recent revelations on this situation.
Sure, Mike. Let's roll the basics out and then come back in more detail in the next segment.
Hi, Alex. Pleasure to be with you today. I think, like the sheriff just said, we put the nail in the coffin with this document, last Thursday. We have 9 points of verified forgery. And what we had to do, and going back to 2011, 2012, Alex, your video that you did initially on this, you were sitting with a gentleman taking the layers apart. That was the very first video I ever saw on the document. And it was the only video I saw for a very long time because I didn't want to, pollute myself with taking in a lot of information. I needed to do this on my own. And I did see that video, and that video was compelling in and of itself. And we confirmed a lot of those things in our first two press conferences. And we even went further in the second press conference by introducing Reed Hayes, a document examiner from Hawaii, 40-year career. I mean, the man is an instructor, a certified court-recognized expert. And we put information out backing up what we did then. Media went silent. They went silent, and they just went into attack mode. Well, the sheriff and I had been discussing this for quite some time, and we agreed that the only way we were going to be able to pursue this was going to be doing it under the radar. And that's what we did. And as this was unfolding, there are operatives out there that come against this kind of investigation. They do it for political motivation.
Sure, they've been trying to put you guys in jail.
They tried. They started to float an idea around about a copy machine being the forger and whatnot, and we had to investigate that, and I make that clear in the video how we did it. But what happened was a turning point, and like the sheriff said, a lucky break. I knew that we had the evidence the first two times, and I knew we still had the evidence. The problem you get with this when you're putting together any kind of criminal case, you have to think about conviction. It's not just enough putting somebody, in bars and behind bars and arresting them. You have to think about how is this going to conclude. And the evidence was compelling the first two times. A lot of the evidence is what you had in your video. However, I knew that there was so much computer forensics involved that you would never convince a jury. There's too much doubt could be thrown in as to how this may have happened other ways.
Sure. Stay there. We're going to come back. We're going to come back on the other side and look at this as if it was going to be a court proceeding. Stay with us with Sheriff Joe Arpio.
Google was complicit.
It's the YouTube version with 184,000 views. There's about 500,000 views on our Facebook version of that, and another 300,000 or so on our own personal feed. That's why I said about 1 million views. And quite frankly, they were covering this. I thought, well, it's interesting, but I didn't think people would be that interested. People are super interested in this still. So I'm just very glad that Sheriff Arpaio and others did this because the public asked them to. But just encapsulating this, the lead detective on the cold case posse, Mike Zullo, who was appointed by Sheriff Arpaio, where's the best place for people to go to see the sheriff's investigation for themselves?
Well, Alex, right now the best place is carlgallops.com. He is creating a page that is housing all the information, all the videos, because we know that's going to be able to stay up after Sheriff Arpaio leaves office in January. So we don't want it anywhere where they can take it down. So carlgallops.com is where it can be found right now.
And I also noticed, looking at the Sheriff's Department website, the sheriff obviously is, I guess, still on the webpage, so he's still the sheriff. Does that transition of power go the same way as the president, January 20th?
No, sir, January 1st.
January 1st, so we're only talking about 15 days or 12 days, and a lot of research materials on that Sheriff's Department website, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
Wow, so that's all being transferred again. What's the website for folks?
carlgallops.com.
carlgallops.com. Okay, we're definitely going to tweet that out. That is so important. So
well, Alex, we got 1.5 million on my Facebook.
Wow.
So that was right away when we went public on this. So we're getting a lot of reception from the people on the Facebook, and I'm going to transfer that into my private Facebook when I leave office. So it's still going to be around.
Well, I would imagine you haven't stopped fighting for 55 years in law enforcement. I don't think you're going to stop now, are you, Sheriff?
No, and thank God that Donald Trump is elected. I was with him from day one in July when I introduced him, and had the gut feeling, and that day I said he's going to be the next president, and it's coming true. And
I had the gut feeling about 2 years ago when he first announced it. So, I mean, how soon did you have that gut feeling, Sheriff?
Well, I've been around. I've been the campaign honorary manager for Bush and Mitt Romney, Rick Perry, so I know something about when people run for president, but Donald Trump was different. I caught on to that right away. A lot of predictions he made is coming true, and I admire the man. What else can I say? I admire the way he treated my wife, who had cancer at the time, and kept calling her. So he's a great person, and he's going to make a great president. That's my prediction.
I don't know how he does it because he's so gracious. Every cop that gets killed, he calls the widow. Folks don't know this, but he sends them money. I don't know. I mean, the word is he spent billions of his fortune just on quiet charity, and then he doesn't want anybody to talk about it.
Well, I've been with him many times, introducing him. I know how he is. I flew in his plane. I had a lot of time to talk to him. He loves cops. He loves veterans. He loves the military. He loves the people. And he's going to shock a lot of people. And I'll tell you one thing that burns me up, being a top federal guy for 30 years and sheriff for 24. Now they're coming after me from all directions for doing my job. So I'm getting a little angry after all this. I'm angry at the media, because they're hiding this thing. How can you hide what's going on with this birth certificate? I can't believe it.
Sir, they take clips of me now. And of course, the show's video, too, but they never show video because it would jump cut. You'd see it was edited. They have high-tech folks that I can't even edit this good. Edit stuff I say together that sounds crazy, and they put it on even Fox against me now. Even Fox is like, I mean, I'm telling you, it's a total attack on this country, and they seem to have gotten worse. What do you make of them trying to overthrow and threaten the electors to not follow the votes?
Well, I was an elector in 2000. With Bush, and boy, they try to go after me, trying to get me to switch my vote. Here in Arizona, you can do that. But, why would I ever do that? Why would anybody do that? When they were committed, they're Republicans, and I'm sure here in Arizona they're not going to switch. And I don't think they are across our nation. But, Hillary and that bunch, they can't accept defeat, so they got to play every game they can play to try to put garbage in.
Sheriff, let me ask you this question. It seems like things have gotten nastier on their side, like they've just gotten completely insane. If you agree with that or disagree, can you elaborate on the psychology, the criminology? Because they really, I mean, look at the WikiLeaks. They act like cartoon villains in those things. They're so nasty, I can't even believe it.
But, Sanders and Hillary both went public nationally against me to get me out of office, of course, with all the money from Soros and everything else. But I can't forget Sanders. I took his wife to my tent city. She didn't like it, and then the husband didn't like it, and he made some threats on me. He said, well, when I become the president, Joe, watch out. You're not going to have, I have the power. I looked at, of course, my response was, you'll never be the president. But these people came after me nationally. And I think I have, when Soros went after me, I thought it was over the illegal immigration and not legalizing marijuana. I think he had a devious motion. I got a little information to prove it. One day I will. He wanted me out of office because of the birth certificate. That's my opinion.
Of course.
So he ganged up.
Well, I mean, they have Comedy Central makes fun of you and goes, he's the guy who claims there's severed heads in the desert. Doesn't he know there's been thousands of bodies dug up on both sides of the border from Texas to Arizona?
Well, they don't want to know about it. They played an illegal immigration game. But, when Trump becomes president, I think things are going to change a little.
Sure. Just over the border of El Paso, they've dug up more than 500 bodies the last couple of years.
Well, we have the third largest county in the country that, I'm the sheriff of, and we see the people coming in. I predicted a long time ago that the drugs are involved. I was the director of Mexico City, and I believe in the wall. If it isn't just for illegal immigration, it has to be for the drugs. All the drugs coming into our country come from Mexico, and Donald Trump played that out a year ago.
Sure, it's not going to stop 100%, but it's going to slow it down. I mean, that's why China built a wall. It's why the Romans built Hadrian's Wall. We're going to go to break. When I come back, I want to get into the birth certificate, but also where you see this country going. But being briefly, Trump and others had asked Trump to maybe make you the head of Homeland Security or Border Security. But you've already served 55 years. Obviously, you're still, out there helping. But what do you think of this Marine Corps general he put in?
I think he'll be pretty good because he worked in Central South America. I worked in all those countries, too, when I was regional director. And he believes in putting people in jail. And, of course, I have all the tents. They'll probably take them away, but I put tents up 24 years ago.
That's my next question. What's going to happen when they release these thousands of criminals out of your jail? I mean, I don't need to predict it, a crime explosion. Let's talk to the outgoing sheriff, Sheriff Joe Arpio, straight ahead, and his chief deputy on the cold case posse. So Sheriff Joe Arpio and Mike Zullo, former New Jersey detective in Bergen County for several years, heading up the cold case posse on the birth certificate. His phony's a $3 bill. And again, it just shows the fraud. I mean, we don't know what's going on exactly. The point is that he says he's from Kenya, then he wouldn't be eligible, and then he looks like, he says we're crazy. He won't give us a birth certificate for 4 years. When he does, it's fake. So just condensing the Sheriff Arpaio, obviously you're, like you said, 1.5 million views on your site, on your video. Ours has millions. The reason that, again, is exciting is the average CNN show doesn't have 1 million viewers. On our own platforms, we're getting more views than they do. So it sounds to me like folks want to continue to hear what you have to say, Sheriff, I think now more than ever.
Yeah, I think they were always interested, but because of the media blackout, sometimes the word could not get out. And thank you, Alex, and for those others that still get the word out the best way they can. When I closed the press conference, I did say one thing. I hope we're going to turn over this to Congress. I hope that some Congress persons will take hold of it, have hearings. If they can have hearings on deflated footballs or steroids, you would think they would have a hearing on this most important subject faced in our country, and probably one of the greatest frauds ever perpetrated in our country. So why not get to the bottom of it and see who's behind this situation?
Wow, Sheriff Joe, that is an incredibly good point. Thinking about this, they have Deflategate and all this other, quite frankly, diversionary issues. And, President Trump, I get the fact he doesn't want to be vindictive, but Hillary is trying to overthrow his election. She's involved in all this stuff. Her foundation's ongoing. I'm sorry, the president, has to let the attorney general go after Hillary because it's his duty. It's not vindictiveness. Can you speak to that? And I mean, what, as a former Fed and as a as somebody that's been involved in these prosecutions, involved in all these cases, what would you do if you were the president?
Well, I think I would do what he's doing. He has a great attorney general, by the way. To commend that appointment. I've met with him a couple of times just recently when he was in Phoenix. So he's making some great choices. Great choices he's making. So I can't comment. I do wish somebody would look into the birth certificate, though, whether it's criminal or take it before Congress and let the people understand what's really going on. So we're going to submit this before I leave office, at least to Congress, and get it out of my hands. We did our job for 5 years. Not much more I can do, but just by chance, luck, and the hard work with Mike, we were able to conclude this.
Sure. Mike, your full press conference is up on Sheriff Arpaio's Facebook and other sites. It's up on InfoWars as well. But just in a minute or two, the new developments, the top lab you had look at this and what they found.
The Certified Document Examiner 4 lab is over in Italy. They are digital forensic specialists. And what we decided to do here was let the evidence guide us. We weren't guiding the evidence. You never guide the evidence in a criminal investigation. And what we would do is we were making discoveries in the document. And that break we got was when Mark Gallar, the gentleman who makes my videos, was making a video for me so I could explain what I was seeing to the sheriff. And he realized the source certificate, the Omni birth certificate, was slightly canted a degree or two off. And once he made this adjustment, this document began to unlock and it started to collapse on its own weight. And I took those findings, sent them across the world. I sent it to Italy. I sent it to Hawaii, 2 different document examiners. I stepped back and I let them both perform analysis on what we have found. And both of them, 2 different disciplines, old school document forensics, new technology, digital forensics, came to the same conclusion. The document is inauthentic, and the things that we have found are not explainable by any other method than cut and paste digital lift. It's as simple as that.
Well, look, I'm no rocket scientist, but we do video editing, not to see, but we know about layers. We know about documents. When you do a digital document, you have to flatten it, and they didn't flatten the document, or you wouldn't be able to remove the layers. And I went to forensics people, and they said, yeah, that's 101, but they were too scared to come on. That's why I'm glad organically you and Sheriff Arpio were able to go out and do this. But, I mean, you see what happened. Criminal attacks, lawsuits. I mean, they're definitely scared of this, Sheriff.
Yeah, I wonder what they're hiding. Maybe they're worried how far up it's going to go. But our whole trust, once again, was to investigate a forged document, and look what's happening today. Why don't you just come up with a microfiche, show the original birth certificate, and get it over with?
Well, absolutely. I mean, notice real ones today are all yellowed because of the acid in the paper, and then the one they've got that's not yellowed. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on and on. I mean, it'd be like if you had a newspaper from the 1960s and it wasn't yellow and it didn't have holes in it, you'd know it was been recently printed. I mean, it's how you know at shops when they have, Titanic newspaper, reprinted from the day after the Titanic, New York Times, it's white paper because it got printed on modern paper. It's white. Any newspaper that's old is going to have rot holes in it, like Pulp Fiction novels. Everybody knows that.
Well, Alex, very quickly, we didn't disclose everything again in this press conference. This was an executive summary. We have other things in the document. There are a variety of color combinations that should not be in the document. I mean, there's a host of stuff. We're not just stopping here. And just to add to the sheriff's point, and I'd like you to conclude with the sheriff, his whole life story is fascinating. We're not stopping. We are going to do whatever we have to do to put this into the hands of Congress and push for an investigation. Because one, it's not mandated, it's detrimental to this country. We want legislation that this never happens again in this nation.
I totally agree. By the way, Sheriff Arpaio is a hard guy to get on. He's so busy. So anytime he'd like to come on and really go over his life, his adventures, as a true lawman, compared to what we're getting today, I would love to have him on. But I got to say this. I've been somebody who's more of a libertarian, been critical of some law enforcement and critical of government. But I got to say, I've been really surprised the last few years to see law enforcement and the military leading the fight with courage to expose the corruption and really being persecuted for it, because it's been the military and police overall that have led the charge against tyranny, and I've really been positive to see just the fact that they can't be intimidated, and that they've been there spreading the word about what's happening. So that gives me a lot of encouragement. And then I saw Soros and other groups fund hundreds of millions to Black Lives Matter and other groups that are openly calling for the death of police officers. It really lets you know how sick these groups are. Sheriff, does it even blow you away that Soros and others have gotten away with doing things that if I did them or you did them, we'd be SWAT teamed?
Well, you're forgetting another element. That's called the Department of Justice. They're the ones coming into all these cities, including mine, and putting monitors to run these police organizations. This is a very deep problem we have with this current Department of Justice. I can't say too much about them because they're trying to prosecute me, but I never seen anything like this, and I've been around 55 years all over the world. This is unique, and we have to do something about it, and I think the next administration will do something about it.
Well, just say it, Sheriff. They act like an outside force. It's like a takeover. It's not America. Yeah,
led by our own government. That's the problem. Led by the Department of Justice and their philosophy and the president. I'm not trying to criticize the president.
Well, it's a fact. In closing, sir, if you'll come back soon. Did you see her press conference about the UN and the strong cities to run the police advisory boards will be run by the UN? Did you see that?
Well, that's scary. I didn't see it, but that's very scary.
It's incredible. Well, we want to commend you, Sheriff, and we want to commend Detective Zullo. Thank you both, gentlemen. And Sheriff, I know you're a busy guy, but in the new year,
I'm available, Alice. Call me anytime.
All right, thank you. Be safe. Wow, that guy's got a lot of courage, and so does Mike Zullo. I tell you, say what you want about Sheriff Arpio. They've demonized him really bad, but that guy's got a lot of courage. We'll be back with other news we haven't covered.